Hello and welcome to Love for Digital Photography. My name is David Jelly. My main photographic interest is landscape and nature, but in a nutshell, I will photograph anything. Today, I'm going to look at 5 basic editing tips for any photo. I will be using Affinity Photo, but it doesn't matter what software you use. All the photo editing tools in any software package will allow you to do this. The first and most important step is to spend some time assessing and analyzing your photo. There are some photos that are very good straight out of camera and require very little editing to take place afterwards. But there are also many images that can be improved by making some very simple editing changes. Here you can see that I have taken this photo on a frosty day. There's a nice ivy leaf poking through some frozen fern leaves. However, there are some distractions with bright stalks of foliage in the corner. The lighting seems quite flat and produces a low tonal range, and the colours I feel lack impact as well. We will go through this one step at a time and how I feel I can improve upon this image. Step 2 is to use the crop tool, and I can access this from the left-hand toolbar. With this photo, there are some quite large areas which do not add anything to the impact of the image. There is also the distracting bright stalk of foliage in the bottom right-hand corner. By using the crop tool, I'm reducing the overall size of the image and drawing the attention to the important ivy leaf poking through the ferns. This immediately draws the eye quite simply to the most important part of the image, which is the ivy leaf. You will also notice that the diagonal bright stalk of fern foliage is running from the corner, the bottom right-hand corner of the image. If you have a diagonal, it has a lot more impact if it starts or ends in a corner. I am just resizing the overall image so it fills the screen for more detailed editing assessment. This is done in the navigation panel and also by using the sliding bars around the image. Step 3 is to adjust the contrast and tonal range of the photo. I feel that this photo is a bit flat and the contrast is quite low. It is important to understand the histogram function if your software permits. The histogram shows the spread of light across the image, with the lighter parts of the image on the right-hand side and the darker parts on the left. The ideal histogram will go from edge to edge with no gap and will also have a curving peak towards the middle. There are a number of tools that can be used to adjust this, but my favorite tool is usually the levels layer. I've opened up the levels layer adjustment panel. You can see you can assess the histogram and you can adjust the black level at the left hand side. This will adjust the black output to your requirement. On the right-hand side, we have quite a gap between the histogram and the edge of the panel. And the first step is to remove that if possible. All the time we're looking at the image to see the changes this is making and deciding whether we're happy with this or not. We can also adjust the gamma, which has a big impact on the contrast, and by sliding right and left, we can make changes until we feel we have got the result that we want. The changes can be quite dramatic, but of course you can make adjustments to your own particular taste. Once we have done that, we will close the panel and assess the results. I can do that by switching the levels layer on and off, and this allows me to see the before and the after and decide whether I'm happy with the overall result. If I'm not happy, I can go back into this levels adjustment and change it again. Step 4 is to adjust the color balance. Not all photos will need this adjustment, but it's important to be in control of this because certain images can be dramatically improved by making changes. With this photo, I do feel that the colors lack a little impact and steps can be taken to improve that. There are a number of tools that can be used to make this change, but my favorite one tends to be the hue, saturation, and luminosity panel. This usually opens to show the adjustments that can be made to the global range of colors within the image. By adjusting the saturation slider, I can increase or reduce the degree of saturation. Once I'm happy with the global colors, I will look at the individual color ranges. The main interest here is the ivy leaf, which is primarily green, so we will work on the green range. And by sliding the saturation, we can increase or decrease the saturation. We can also increase or decrease the luminosity of that particular color. Of course, green in a photo contains a large degree of yellow, and I will also make adjustments with the yellow slider, which will change the color of the ivy leaf as well. Most green in photos is affected through changes to the yellow. Of course, there's quite a bit of brown within the fern leaves, and brown is primarily red. And I will make some changes until I'm happy with the result. Step 5, adjusting the sharpness. The degree of sharpness is very important in any photo. If it isn't sharp enough, it can look quite blurred and can be ruined. However, too much sharpness can also ruin a good photo. There are a number of ways of doing this, but the simplest way is to start with the on-sharp mask. In Affinity Photo, I find this in the live filters. There are a number of sliders. We can work with a different radius, but I will nearly always work to a radius of 1 pixel, as this is the most natural thing to do. Then we can change the degree of sharpening by taking the slider. If we go too far, it can start to look a little bit too sharp and a bit unnatural. And in some images, you will get a halo effect. But if we move the slider left and right, we can end up with a result that we are satisfied with. The changes are taking place in front of our eyes, so it is easy to control the overall change. I rarely adjust the tolerance threshold level, but it can make a difference to some images. In this case, I will leave it at 0. Once completed, we will switch the sharpness layer on and off by clicking alongside the on-sharp mask. If we are not happy with the results, we can always go back into this layer adjustment. So I can now review all the changes I've made to this image from the starting photo through to the final edit, and you can see some dramatic changes have been made. We will now go through the same steps with the second photo, a lot quicker this time. This was taken in the Blue Mountains near Sydney, Australia. It was quite a hazy day. I'm assessing the image. I can see that the colours are quite flat and the tonal range is quite flat. There's also quite a hazy background which has got a blue colour cast, in my opinion. As before, we will start with the crop tool. This image does not need a lot of cropping, but I feel we can take away some of the right hand side and also remove a small amount from the bottom. And in my opinion, this improves the balance of the photo. Now that I have cropped it, I will resize it using the navigator panel so it fills the screen for more accurate editing. So the next step is to assess and change the tonal range. Once again, we are assessing the histogram. We can see the peaks are relatively central, but we have a gap at the right-hand side and a little bit on the left. As before, I have opened the levels panel and I will use the sliders to adjust the tonal range. We'll bring the left in, the dark edge in to improve the blacks, and we'll bring in the right hand side to improve the whites. You will also notice that the blue part of the tonal range is quite far to the right, and this is actually producing part of the hazy effect in the sky. For this photo, I don't like this, so I have removed part of the blue tonal range on the right hand side, which reduces the blue haze that we have in the background. Also, by sliding the gamma, I've improved that even further. If we look at before and after, we can see some quite dramatic and very pleasing changes to the photo. As before, we will now look at the color balance, and I certainly feel we can do a lot to this image to make the colors more impactful and to reduce the effect of the blue haze in the background. We will go to the HSL, hue, saturation and luminosity setting. We will first try a global color change. And already we can see the color of the rocks has improved enormously. The rock surface is brown, so contains a lot of red, and by adjusting the red option slider with saturation and luminosity, we have made this even better still. The green and yellow will control the vegetation colors, and we can make small adjustments to that as well. This is always a matter of taste, and each photo will be different as to how you make these changes. We will now see if we can remove the blue haze, first with the blue slider, and by reducing the saturation, that has made a massive difference. Furthermore, by reducing the luminosity, we are improving it even further. Blueness contains cyan as well, so we are making some adjustments with the cyan slider until we're happy with the result. And the blue haze has now changed completely. This is a much better result in my book. We will now look at sharpness. Once again, we will use the unsharp mask. We will set a radius of 1. And we will adjust the degree to our liking. If we go all the way to the right, it is too sharp and looks unnatural. And I think in the middle is just about the right setting. If we switch to before and to after, we can decide whether we like the results or whether we need to go back and make further changes. If we go back to the starting image and the end image, you can see we've done a lot to this photo to make it much more pleasing to the eye, and one that I would be proud to hang on my wall. So, as you can see, you can make some very big changes to your photos with 5 simple editing steps. I hope that you have found this video useful. I will be creating more videos over the next few weeks. Please subscribe to my channel and you will be updated on new videos as they are launched. Happy photography and see you again. Bye.